Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years.
You know, some people are born into power. Others spend their entire lives fighting to get a taste of it. And then there's Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't start with money or connections, yet somehow he ended up at the absolute center of global power. The question that hangs over his entire story has always been the same. Just how did he do it?
So let's just look at this contrast because it's staggering. On one side, you have his beginnings. Working class Brooklyn, no special connections, no family fortune, nothing. And on the other side, the world he ended up in. We're talking Manhattan elites, billionaires, royalty, heads of state. The distance between those two worlds is just immense.
And that really is the central mystery, isn't it? How does a single person build a bridge from such an ordinary life to the very heart of extraordinary power? To even begin to unpack that, we have to go right back to the start.
His rise wasn't just unlikely. It honestly seems to defy all the normal rules of success. It all starts with a very unusual career move. So get this, he starts out as a math teacher at the Dalton School, which is one of the most exclusive, high-end private schools in Manhattan. And this is the key. His students were the children of New York's financial titans. Then, just 2 years later, he makes a leap that is practically unheard of. He goes from a high school classroom straight to a job as an investment banker at Bear Stearns, a huge Wall Street firm.
He didn't have the Ivy League degree or the family name that you'd expect, but what he apparently had was something much more valuable. He understood the psychology of the wealthy. He could use flattery and project this image of being a financial wizard. He was a master at figuring out the ambitions and maybe even the insecurities of the super rich. And that skill, well, it turned out to be worth more than any diploma.
So, using those connections he forged on Wall Street, he goes out on his own. He starts to build this private, secretive empire, a world of insane luxury, all paid for by a fortune that, to this day, is still one of the biggest mysteries in modern finance.
And the scale of this lifestyle was just breathtaking. I mean, we are talking about one of the largest private mansions in all of New York City, a sprawling oceanfront estate in Palm Beach, a massive desert ranch in New Mexico, and of course, a private Caribbean island that locals would eventually give a very dark nickname, all of it serviced by his own private jets. It was a life fit for a king, but no one could ever really explain where the money came from.
One name always seems to surface when people try to trace the source of that initial wealth: Leslie Wexner, the billionaire behind major brands like Victoria's Secret. Wexner reportedly gave Epstein extraordinary power over his finances, and many believe that this relationship was the rocket fuel that launched Epstein into the highest echelons of society.
And you can't tell Epstein's story without talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. She was his constant companion, but she was so much more than that. She was his partner. Coming from a powerful family herself, her father was the infamous media tycoon Robert Maxwell. She had her own deep connections and a kind of high society polish that helped open doors for him all over the world.
For decades, this secret world operated completely in the shadows, but eventually that perfect facade started to crack, and it all began with one phone call to the police. It was 2005. A mother in Palm Beach, Florida, went to the police. She told them her teenage daughter had been assaulted inside Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. That one complaint was the single thread that, when pulled, would begin to unravel a truly horrifying reality. As investigators started digging, they uncovered a chilling, systematic pattern. Dozens of young women and girls came forward, and their stories were terrifyingly similar. They were often recruited from poor or struggling families, paid a couple $100s for what was called a massage, which they said would then turn into sexual abuse. And many of these survivors identified Ghislaine Maxwell as a key person who recruited them into this world. Now, this is where the story gets really mind-boggling. Look at this. Epstein was facing a potential life sentence on federal sex trafficking charges. But what happened? He got what is now known as a sweetheart deal. He completely avoided all federal charges. He ended up serving just 13 months in a county jail, and even then, he was allowed out on work release for most of the day, every single day.
That deal effectively buried the story for nearly a decade, but the outrage never went away, especially for his victims. And thanks to their incredible courage and some relentless journalism, the story was about to come roaring back.
So in 2018, investigative journalists exposed the secret behind-the-scenes negotiations that led to that 2008 plea deal. And when the public learned how it all went down, it just ignited this firestorm of outrage. forcing law enforcement to finally reopen the case.
Survivors like Virginia Giuffre found their voice and spoke out publicly. Her accusation was one of the most stunning, that she had been trafficked to powerful men in Epstein's circle, including Britain's Prince Andrew. And then, of course, that now infamous photograph surfaced, which seemed to support her story. And finally, in July 2019, it happened. Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal charges for sex trafficking of minors. It really felt like this was the moment of reckoning. The entire world was watching, waiting for a trial that promised to finally expose not just him, but his entire network. But that trial, the trial that might have finally delivered answers in some form of justice, it never happened. Instead, the story took its final, in its darkest turn.
Just over a month after his arrest, while awaiting trial in a high-security federal jail, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. The official cause of death was ruled a suicide.
But the circumstances were immediately suspicious. Security cameras outside his cell reportedly malfunctioned. The 2 guards who were supposed to be checking on him had apparently missed their checks for hours. And so, the one man who could have named names, who could have explained everything, died before he ever got the chance to testify. An incredible number of secrets died with him.
So when you hear people talk about the Epstein Files, this is what they mean. It's not some single secret folder. It's a massive collection of evidence, thousands of pages of court records, flight logs from his private jets, emails, his infamous little black book, all of it hinting at a network that reached into the highest levels of global society.
In the end, Jeffrey Epstein's death didn't close the book on this story. It slammed it shut right in the middle. It left his survivors without full justice, and it left the public with this deeply unsettling question that we may never get an answer to. How much of the truth and how many powerful names never saw the light of day?